Today our guests are Max Prickett,
Great to be here.
Amos Jericho,
What Max said, great to be here.
and Jack Wright.
I'm here too.
Alright, so today guys we're going to be discussing Gary Paulson's Adventure novella, The Hatchet. How'd you like The Hatchet, Max?
Well, Logan, I personally didn't find Hatchet very suspenseful, or well, spine-tingling. In my opinion, a good survival adventure thriller does to the reader. Maybe because I read this book before, I found it so predictable. I don't know. Hatchet didn't really rock my boat, and although there wasn't anything wrong with the story, I just didn't find it engaging enough.
Okay, what's your opinion, Jack?
I like Hatchet. It was a good read.
Okay, can you elaborate on this?
Well, unlike Max's opinion, I found Hatchet fairly suspenseful, but this is probably because I read it very recently, and I can see myself forgetting about it in the future, but for now it's a pretty good book.
Okay.
I agree with you, Jack, in that I found it quite suspenseful at the start, but towards the end I found that everything just went well for Brian, in that he found food, pretty much, like he just found food, he had like bows and arrows and like all that stuff. But I found the author's use of flashbacks pretty good to like get the inside story to what Brian was thinking.
Okay, well that's great to hear, guys. Personally, I thought The Hatchet left me feeling curious. Every page I read, I was always wondering what was going to happen next. And yeah, so. Okay, guys. So, what was your favorite part within the book?
Mine was probably the start when he's crashing the plane. Well, not he. When the pilot has the heart attack and he's crashing the plane, because it really hooked me into the book, and like it made me really worried for Brian.
Yeah.
And another part was probably the hedgehog. I don't really know why I like that scene. I just enjoyed it. And the tornado scene. That's just everyone loves that one. It's a good scene.
Yeah.
I personally found the scene where Brian was hit with the tornado, it made the book have that really suspenseful feel back again, and I can relate it to some great suspenseful and classic books, that scene, like the description and just the way the author describes how the tornado hit.
Fair enough.
Oh, look, I have to agree with Amos on this one. My favourite part in the book was when the tornado hit. I found that Paulson introduced the tornado into the right time, which made the book more suspenseful. And the reason why I personally liked it is because it made me want to keep reading on, and it made me want to see what happened to Brian, which I found very engaging, and that's why it was my favourite scene.
I'd probably say my favourite scene was same as Jack at the start. He said when the part of the heart attack, and that was really scary for Brian because he didn't know what he was doing. He was trapped in a plane where it was crashing and he didn't know how to fly it. So I think it was very dramatic, and you could all feel for Brian's well-being in that sense. Okay, were there any parts within the book that inspired you?
Well, I found the part where Brian's plane first crashed and he was left with nothing, and the way he was able to build shelter, build weapons to get food when he's in an everyday country boy with no survival training.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I didn't really find the setting that Brian was placed in very enticing. The book didn't really inspire me to go, do or see anything. And I found at times Brian fell in a heap and was at times quite depressed. And I didn't find his situation very inspiring. Although I did admire Brian's resilient nature, which ultimately kept him alive.
You have to go.
So I guess if I were to take anything away from that book, it would definitely be Brian's resilience to overcome tough obstacles.
Well, I actually didn't find that inspiring, as suspenseful as the book is. It isn't very inspiring. But I really can see it inspiring others, like explore the world and learn how to survive in the wild.
But yeah, that's a very mixed response. I saw this book as it was very inspiring because it taught me about not giving in when times get tough, and like Brian is very resilient and he has a lot of mental strength. He's from the city. He was thrown into a situation where he wasn't sure what he had to do, but he stayed strong and was able to get through tough times. Alright, Max, I'll start with you first. How do you view Brian's mentality to the situation?
In my opinion, I thought Brian did his best to stay sane, even when he was faced with many different adversities. Although he definitely lost his mind in some occasions, for example when he tried to commit suicide, I thought Brian did his best to try and stay positive, even when he was faced with many difficulties. But returning back to resilience, if Brian didn't have this trait in abundance, I really don't think he would have survived. And I thought that this trait helped Brian with his mental situation.
Well, I think his mentality really changes throughout the book. Like at the start, he's really nervous and scared of what's about to happen, like the reader. But as you go throughout the book and as he goes through the bush, he grows more comfortable and he's more happy there, like a bit of a Bear Grylls type.
I think Brian's mental resilience really changed the situation. Like just going on from Jack's point, at the start he was really thinking quite negatively and I'm never going to get help. But towards the end he his mental attitude really changes in that he begins to find medical packs in the plane where he wouldn't have thought of that in the start. So I really think his mental attitude changed the whole situation.
Yeah. And what did you say?
And to add to that, recalling back, I remember when he did go into that plane and he actually found a rifle in the medical pack. And he was so used to, with his bow and arrows, he'd made all of his hunting supplies. He didn't need man-made equipment. So he basically threw it aside. He knew he didn't need it, and I thought that rifle was very symbolic.
Yeah, I think you're right in a sense. Brian shows he has a very strong level of mental strength. He is faced with a number of challenges throughout the book, and he was able to overcome these. When times got tough, he was able to just have belief that someone would come and find him, which, is a very positive thing to be thinking about when you stop in the middle of nowhere. Alright, so what are your opinions on the book's overall structures?
So I think the book's structure is really a product of the times. It was published in 1987 and it really shows. In those days, pacing of media like books and movies was a lot slower than movies in the 21st century. And a lot less happened in an hour in a film from that day than a film from the 21st century. I hold the belief that if you show someone from the 80s a movie from 2016, the effects or the look of the film wouldn't be the biggest change, it would be the pacing.
Yeah, I quite agree with that, Jack, because I think the book structure could have been improved, but that was probably because the book is quite old. Like in some scenes and chapters in the book really does get quite slow, like through the wilderness.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's a result of when it was published.
Well, I found the structure of the book at times a bit slow and boring, but at other times it was fast-paced and action-packed. I thought Paulson did a great job of breaking up the story by changing the pace of the text. And I also thought that he could have done a bit more of this, which may have made the story more engaging for me to read, as the reader.
Yeah, just going on from that, Max, like most books these days are just 100% action-packed, but back then it was quite slow, and then there'll be like a few scenes that were quite like action-packed.
Yeah. So, to me, the book structure was rather excellent. I believe that, the author knew exactly when to, pace things up a bit to make things dramatic and suspenseful, and then when to slow things down, and the audience is positioned to get within Brian's thoughts, see what he's feeling and thinking, and I think it was a very good job by the author. So, Max, what do you believe are the key ideas within the novel?
Well, the key themes and ideas expressed by Paulson that shaped the book included the power of positive thinking and how it can change a situation for the better. At the start of the book, Brian is left confused, hopeless and scared, which he is able to turn around through positivity. This message is more of a greater theme presented by the book and is probably the most significant idea that is presented by Paulson. Another idea that is presented by Paulson is that sometimes escaping modern civilization can help build character in a person.
Yep.
I thought that Brian's experience gave him a new appreciation for the environment, which ultimately will help him in live a more happy and relaxed life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that some of the key ideas and ideals in the book is the moral that if someone who puts their mind to it, they can do anything, and like with resilience and persistence, they can achieve just tons of things.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I agree with you, Jack, in that the author really rewards those in this book that have lots of resilience. Like Brian, he was able to conquer a seemingly impossible task of like surviving for months on end with nothing but a hatchet in the Canadian wilderness, and he went through some really tough times, but he made it out. And I reckon his resilience was the biggest thing.
You know, I'll say exactly what Max said. The ideas of this novel express that everyone should always have a positive mindset to the situations that face them. Whether this challenge be great or small, just don't give up to. Just never feel that you got no chance and everything. Always just believe that you can do it.
Yeah.
That's something that Gary Paulson definitely focused on, in my opinion. Well, that concludes another episode of Book Talk. I'd like to thank you all for coming out, and everyone watching at home. Thanks to Max Brigitte.
Thanks for having me, Logan.
Jack Wright.
Thanks, no problem.
And finally, last but not least, Amos Jericho. It was a pleasure. Alright, so hopefully you all join in next week for another episode of Book Talk.
See ya!
See ya!
Bye-bye!
Bye! Can you do that? MC